Welcome to See the Invisible Stuff. That's the name of the YouTube channel, spelled just like that. See the Invisible Stuff. Watch the videos, like a video if you like it, and subscribe. But I want to talk to Christians. I want to give them a heads up or something to keep their eye out on. I want to talk about Catholicism and how Catholicism is starting to have its hands in denominations that's not of the Catholic practice, so to speak. This is how this is taking place, right? You got some of the head guys, some of the people at the top of other denominations that are not Catholic. They are being introduced and have been, it's been going on for a while, have been introduced to the belief that you're not a real bishop, so to speak, unless a certain person laid hands on you. And this certain person, just like, in Catholic belief, it's believed that in order to consider yourself a legitimate bishop in Catholicism, whoever laid hands on you, they got to be able to trace that all the way back to Peter. That person who laid hands on you, who laid hands on them, who laid hands on them, all the way back to Peter, in order in Catholicism for you to be a real bishop. Catholicism believe that every church needs to come under them, but the so-called mother church, as they would refer to themselves, you're disenfranchised as a Christian if you're not Catholic. This is the whole thing, right? Now this is what's happening. Once the head guys of denominations, people who are higher up, well respected in certain denominations, start taking on the belief of the illegitimate bishop thing, they get reordained as a bishop. If they were already considered to be a bishop, they get reordained as one. To be now a legitimate bishop, taking on that Catholic belief. Or some who never been ordained in the first place. Once they find out about this, they say, oh, a certain person got to touch me because we have to trace it back all the way to Peter in order for it to be legit, which is the Catholic belief. Now, once this happened up top, it starts seeping throughout denominations because the person at the head of a denomination can teach that to another person, they teach that to a person, and they teach it to congregations, and then it just get widespread after a while. And not only that, you start seeing some of the ways of Catholicism in churches that's not of that denomination. You can start seeing things like, sometimes you may see them dress up in the Catholic garb, so to speak, right? You may see someone changing the name from communion to Eucharist. Don't get me wrong, I know Eucharist is not a bad word. I'm just saying. It'll switch from communion, for example, right? It'll be a cracker in a little drink in remembrance of Christ. That's what it would be before. Now it'll switch to transubstantiation. Transubstantiation is the belief that once you take that stuff, it literally turns into something else. It turns into Christ. It really turns into the body of Christ. That's a Catholic belief. Other denominations are starting to practice that now. Even if they don't call it transubstantiation, once they turn it into something, once they say it turns into something else, that's transubstantiation, whether they prefer to call it that or not. Denominations, you're starting to hear stuff about people that are not of the Catholic belief. You start hearing things like for example, I heard one guy who is the head of a denomination. He said the denomination that he's in, he's never even heard of a bishop being of that denomination. So in order for him to be a bishop, he felt like he had to get ordained by a certain person for it to be legitimate. They had to trace it all the way back. So now, once that guy being the head of a denomination, he kind of spreaded it. He reordained some people because they weren't legitimate bishops according to the belief that he took on, and that's how you get the seepage, They wasn't calling each other father and stuff. Now that's happening at these churches. People, oh, that's my father, these are my sons, these are my daughters, stuff like that, Kind of taking on the Catholic language, the Catholic garbs, some of the ways of Catholicism. Now they still won't consider themselves to be a Catholic church or be of Catholicism, but that's not my point. The whole thing is, if you're taking on some of their practices, some of their beliefs, talking like them, doing things like them, you are taking on their ways. And this is a church that believes that everybody need and should to be under them anyway. So whether you may realize it or not, you are coming up under their wing. And if you don't agree with their doctrine, if you don't want to get down with Catholicism, you may already be gradually, subtly doing it without you knowing. And that's why I wanted to give everybody a heads up. I wanted to give everybody something to look out for, because you may be somebody who would prefer not to be, in the mix with Catholicism. And if you are one of those people, just something to be aware of, something to look out for, something to find out about. That's all I wanted to do, was just put a heads up out there.